Good morning, and welcome to our Sunday virtual worship service here at First Parish in Framingham. I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister at First Parish. Whether this is your first time joining First Parish for worship, or it's your 1000th time, you, dear one, are welcome right here. Thank you for inviting your spiritual community into your home on this Sunday morning. First Parish in Framingham is a welcoming congregation, and this means that we celebrate all people of all sexual orientations, races, genders, ages, abilities, or beliefs. So wherever you are on life's journey, and whatever device you are watching this on, you are welcome here. Now, immediately following the service, there'll be a Zoom coffee hour. The sign-in information will be shown on the final screen. We will now hear our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Feel free to sing along with the words as they show up on the screen.
Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, 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 come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, 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 whoever you are, wanderer, come, whoever you are, ours is no caravan, lover 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 dismaying, 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 ours is no caravan, of despair. Come, yet again, 1,000 times. Come, yet again, 1,000 times. Come, yet again, 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come. Come, yet again, come.
These opening words come from the Reverend Joanna Lubkin. Reverend Lubkin is a good friend of mine, and she serves as the minister at All Souls Church in Braintree, Massachusetts. It's important to know that Reverend Lubkin's path to ordained Unitarian Universalist ministry involved 2 years in rabbinical school. Reverend Lubkin writes these words: "We light this chalice in honor of Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Atonement, which begins at sundown tonight. May its flame call us to search our souls, sifting through the past year to see where we may have missed the mark. May its light guide us toward the courageous and open-hearted apology, toward repair of relationships in our life. May its heat warm our hearts to offer forgiveness to those who have wronged us, allowing us to release the chains of grudge and blame that have bound us to them. And may its strength help us take the actions that are within our power to make this next year more just, more loving, more peaceful for our communities and for all humanity." The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith tradition. It represents a flame of wisdom and of hope. As the children of our congregation light the chalice, and as I light the chalice in our sanctuary, may we each kindle our own separate flames. You are invited to type into the chat box, if you're watching this live, "The chalice is lit in our home."
throughout the skies. Let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung. Through every land, by every tongue.
Please join us in our words of affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church.
The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Today's story is a really old story. It comes from the Hebrew Scriptures, and it's about this man. It's Jonah. Now, Jonah here, he was a prophet, means a messenger of God, and Jonah heard from God, who asked him to deliver a message to the people of a city called Nineveh. And God's message to the folks in Nineveh was that they had to stop their evil ways, or the entire city would be destroyed and all the people along with it. Jonah agreed. He packed his bags, said goodbye to his wife and his children, and he set off. But he didn't set off for Nineveh. No, Jonah was scared. He was scared because the Ninevehs were not his people. They weren't Jewish. And who really listens to prophets anyway, right? He was pretty sure that his message was not going to be well received. And so he ran away. Have you ever run away from a problem before? I certainly have. The way Jonah decided to run away was he bought a ticket on a ship headed in the opposite direction from Nineveh. Now, the God of the Hebrew Scriptures, he's a pretty almighty, all-knowing God, and knew exactly where Jonah was, at the bottom of this ship. Now, as it would be, God decided to send a storm to the boat to give Jonah a message. I know where you are, and I know that you have a task to do. The sailors on board this ship became frightened. It was a huge storm. They were throwing cargo off the side of the ship in order to try and make it lighter to survive the storm. They finally found Jonah asleep at the bottom of the boat, and they said, wake up, there's a huge storm, we need your help. And Jonah said to the sailors, this storm is no accident. This storm is my fault. Throw me off of the ship. The sailors said, but we can't just throw you off the side of a ship, you're an innocent man. And Jonah said, actually, I'm not. This storm is because I have ignored my duties, my responsibilities. And so, reluctantly, the sailors threw Jonah off the side of the boat. Now God wasn't out to hurt Jonah, and so he sent a great big fish to swallow Jonah whole. And for 3 days and for 3 nights, Jonah sat inside the belly of this great big fish. It's like a really long time out, isn't it? There he was inside of the fish, warm and stinky and smelly, with lots of time on his hand. Plenty of time to think about what had gone wrong. Eventually, the fish had had enough, coughed Jonah up, and here was Jonah, ready this time to do the very thing he had been asked to do, to go to the people of Nineveh. And so Jonah made the long journey to Nineveh, and he told the people of Nineveh that they must stop their evil ways, or God was going to destroy their city. He didn't expect it to work. But the people of Nineveh, they listened. And they stopped. And God forgave them. That didn't sit too well with Jonah. What do you mean you forgave them? They were evil, they were awful. Punish them, Jonah said to God. Even though Jonah had just gotten a second chance, he didn't quite believe that the folks in Nineveh should get that second chance as well. Now God, in this story and in the Hebrew scriptures, is a forgiving God. And when you make a mistake, or when you do something wrong, you get a second chance. You get a chance to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to get that right this time. So this is a story that is told every year at Yom Kippur, which we are on the eve of the Jewish High Holy Days. It's a time to think about the ways in which you have maybe done something wrong or maybe run away from a problem, and to get yourself and to give yourself a second chance.
Now is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing the things which weigh deepest on our hearts, because we know that a sorrow shared can be a burden lifted, and a joy shared can be a joy expanded. There will be prompts on the screen which will help give some order to our sharing. Please feel free to type those, joys or sorrows, into the chat box. Also, do remember that in this virtual space, privacy cannot be guaranteed. So if you do have something a little bit more tender to share, send me an email.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak with me, speak with me, speak with me, oh my soul. Speak with me, speak with me, speak with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul.
As we sit in our own separate homes, I'm aware that our hearts are pointed in so many different directions. Our minds are scattered and focused on things in our own lives. This time of meditation and prayer isn't so much about asking the divine for something, but rather bringing the joys and sorrows, the milestones and the hurdles of the world to mind. Let us now sit in the quiet of our own homes, feeling the chair supporting us as we take a comfortable breath in and a comfortable breath out. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls us by our true first name, which is beloved. We give thanks for the joys that we have shared, for the crisp autumn air, and the final last brilliant golden and yellow, orange and red show that the leaves are giving. We give thanks for this community, hale and hearty, steady and strong, that has gathered since 1701. And we give thanks for all of the ways that it is adapting in new ways. We lift up those in our community who are ill, lonely, living with mental illness or living with addiction. May we find ways to lessen their burden through concrete action, grasping beyond "I'm here if you need me," and changing that to things like "I have a casserole for you. When can I drop it off?" I also lift up and call to mind teachers, students, and parents. The task of shifting education to virtual classrooms is exhausting. Even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes, parents, teachers, and students know this: you are doing a great job. And speaking of doing a great job, so many of us need to hear that. We can be so critical of ourselves that we forget to list the ways that we have done a good job. For every time we think, "Oh, I could have done more," or "I am less," let us list 2 or 3 things that we are good at, or 2 or 3 things that we did do. Living during a pandemic is something that none of us know how to do. This has been a challenging week for justice. We, of course, mourn the loss of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and may we wonder, how do we carry on her memory? By remembering that the power that we too have. May we exercise that power. We also mourn, and mourn feels like a weak word. We rage about the decision of a grand jury in Louisville, Kentucky, after a grand jury decided not to indict police officers who were involved in the murder of Breonna Taylor, the healthcare worker who was killed by police officers in her apartment while she was sleeping. We also mourn the death of Unitarian Universalist leader Alondria Williams. Alondria had recently served as the co-moderator of our denomination with our congregation's own, the Reverend Mr. Barb Grieve. Alondria was 41 years old, I believe. And I close this time of meditation with a prayer that Alondria wrote, because their words speak louder than any of mine could. They write, "We are worthy not because of what we produce, but because of who we are. We are divine bodies of light and darkness. You are not worthy because of what you offer, not because of what is in your mind, not for the support you give others, not for what you give at all. We are worthy and whole just because in this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and alignment, we are not disposable. We are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that has been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise. We arise from the pain, We arise from the grief. We arise from the limits people place on us and the limits we place on ourselves. We rise to be the children and the ancestors. We rise to be our true selves in our relationships to our community and family, recognizing our liberating and whole selves, honoring them and others as we strive for abundant communities, abundant lives, abundant relationships, and abundant values and cultural manifestations. We are worthiness personified. I, you, and we are worthy and deserve a life where we are not always fighting for our existence. Imagine what we could create if we were not always in the struggle. Imagine what we could envision if we could just be let to go there. So tired of always having to resist, to fight, demanding, pushing to everyone that has the courage, the power, the ability to co-create what we want and need while rooting in what we can't lose and who we are. You are the visionary. You are the hope. You are our ancestors' dreams. No, you might not ever end up on some list somewhere, but you are on a list in someone's heart and mind. And if it's in how you move in the world so people can see by example, you are the embodiment of what we need. Thanks to all that are the embodiment not of productivity, but the embodiment of radical love, care, and sanctuary. It's time, embodiment time. Embodiment, living one's values out loud. Let me every day live my values out loud. Let us every day live our values out loud, embodying our values, not the productivity quotient, beyond productivity, past productivity, true embodiment, life. May Alondria's words, their wisdom and their life be a blessing to us all, and may all that is holy hear these our prayers. The ongoing work of this congregation in these walls and beyond them depends on your generosity. This week's offering is a Share the Plate offering, where all of the proceeds will go to the Diaper Project. When you go to our website today, please note that the Share the Plate option will automatically be selected. Here's Eva Benda to share more about the Diaper Project's vital mission.
Good morning. Today marks the end of National Diaper Need Awareness Week. We should be proud that in 2015, First Parish founded the Diaper Project to provide Metro West families in financial distress with diapers for their infants and toddlers to keep them clean, dry, and healthy. We partnered with A Place to Turn in Natick to distribute diapers to the 17 Metro West communities it serves. We knew then, and we know now, that up to 3,000 families in Framingham alone struggled to buy diapers. We know now that diapers are expensive. A family needs up to $80 a month for diapers per child, an average of 50 diaper changes per week over 3 years, a lot of diapers. That government programs don't cover the cost of diapers. We know that many parents are forced to reuse diapers or leave their child in a soiled diaper longer than appropriate. And we know that many families have to decide between food, medicine, and clean babies. How has the Diaper Project addressed these challenges faced by financially stressed families? Between January 2016 through this August, 379,423 diapers have been distributed. Think about it, 379,423 diapers. That's an amazing number. Between January 2016 through this August, 4,973 times parents have said thank you for receiving a packet of diapers for their child. Awful lot of thank yous. An average of 30 organizations and many individuals donate diapers and provide financial support every year. Today, we share the plate to support this program founded at First Parish to keep babies clean, dry, and healthy. Thank you so much for your generous support.
As you might know, at sunset tonight is the beginning of the most holy of the Jewish high holy days, Yom Kippur. For some of you, this might be your tradition's practice. For others, it is not. So for those who don't have this as a practice, here's what Rabbi Arthur Green, the rector of the rabbinical school at Hebrew College, wrote about. And Rabbi Green is far more eloquent than I could ever hope to be. Rabbi Green writes this: Yom Kippur has been transformed in the rabbinic tradition to a day of intense prayer and soul searching. Encouraged by the atmosphere of the fast. It is called a Sabbath of Sabbaths. All work that is forbidden on the Sabbath is forgiven on Yom Kippur as well. It is a full fast day, which means that there are 5 special prohibitions against eating and drinking, sexual relations, bathing, wearing leather shoes, and wearing perfume. Of the many great liturgical compositions of the synagogue, both poetic and musical, have been written for Yom Kippur. It is generally considered to be a day full of prayer. The length and the repetitious qualities of the prayer services on Yom Kippur have a cathartic effect. And by the end of the fast, following the appearance of 3 stars in the evening sky, we are filled with a sense of both exhaustion and cleansing. Now, a resource from Reform Judaism describes it this way. By reciting prayers in a synagogue on Yom Kippur, we atone for transgressions against God, for wrongs committed against other people. It has become customary to seek out friends and relatives whom we have wronged during the year and to ask forgiveness, their forgiveness, before Yom Kippur begins. The holiday is a time when families should be at peace, and it gives us a yearly opportunity to put aside past hurts and create a new beginning. This is a day where the focus is on brokenness, forgiveness, and yes, perhaps even sin. And these are challenging themes for human beings, but especially, I think, for Unitarian Universalists. Sin, brokenness, and forgiveness are difficult because we are afraid of the possibility of being seen as anything less than whole. We are afraid of the possibility of not being loved. It's difficult, I think, to talk about our brokenness and sin because many people in many religions want to tell us that we are unlovable, that we are broken, and that pain that other religious traditions have injured us with is real. Now, if you remove the possibility that you are not perfect, that you are not broken, then how do you live, or rather, how do you react to people who live with addiction? How do you react to people that have harmed others, who have harmed children? It gets complicated. So what place does sin, brokenness, and forgiveness have in our living tradition? Well, I tried doing a word search for the word sin in our hymnal. And it was a little tough. Doing it electronically, we sing a lot about rising and singing, so the letters are there, but there are very few mentions of sin. A colleague of mine writes, the 1937 hymnal of our tradition, Hymns of the Spirit, or the Red Hymnal, which some of you watching might remember, contains multiple orders of service, with liturgical language and everything. And all of those services contain either a prayer of confession or aspiration, some acknowledgement that we have fallen short of our highest ideals. Now, some of these prayers are theistic in their orientation and others are humanistic. Here are a few samples of those prayers. Spirit of all good, day by day are thy blessings renewed to us. And again, we come with thankful hearts to seek the presence of to seek the sense of thy presence. Oh, that we could be reborn like the morning, for even as we seek commune with thee, shadows from our past dim the joy of our aspiration. We remember our thoughtless lives, our impatient tempers, our selfish aims, and yet we know that thou hast neither made us blind like the creatures that have not sinned, nor left us without holy guidance, thy still small voice speaking, in our innermost conscience, and thine open word having dwelt among us, full of grace and truth, appealing to us to choose the better part. Take us now to serve thee in newness of spirit, and sweep away every dust of care, every trace of fear, every taint of an uncharitable mind. Amen. That's some language, isn't it? Another hymn or another prayer of confession or aspiration from 1937 begins, "Before the wonders of life, we acknowledge our failures to see and to revere. Before the sanctities of life, we are ashamed of our disrespect and our indignities. Before the gifts of life, we own that we have made choice of lesser goods, and here today seek the gifts of the Spirit. Before the heroisms of life, we would be enlarged to new devotion." Now, by 1963, all confessions had been dropped from the hymnal at the time, the blue hymnal, Hymns for the Celebration of Life. Now, interestingly, by 1993, 3 hymns or prayers of confession or aspiration were added back in to our denomination's hymnal, the gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition. But my hunch is that most congregations do not use them often. I often wonder, why did that happen? What changed from 1937 to 1963 and then to 1993 rather? There was an interest in forgiveness in 2009. There was a vote at our denomination's General Assembly to add a really interesting passage to our denomination's bylaws. Now, it failed. It was only by some 13 to 15 votes, but the vote the next year required a 2/3 vote in the affirmative, so that vote would have likely failed. And that section that failed in 2009 went like this: "Capable of both good and evil, at times we are in need of forgiveness and reconciliation. When we fall short of living up to this covenant, we will begin again in love, repair the relationship, and recommit to the promises that we have made." So this was part of the revision to the Principles and Purposes article of our Unitarian Universalist Association, proposed and defeated in 2009. Now, I wonder, how might our tradition have changed if we had adopted that section? Would we have more focus on forgiveness? Would we pay attention to letting go? Now, I also wonder this: if we might have a faulty definition of sin, or not so much faulty, but a one that we learned in our childhood, that we have clung onto, one that might have been damaging. And so we have rightfully rejected that word. Liberal and progressive religion in general has a very tough time with sin. Now, what if we defined sin as missing the mark, as it was in the original Greek? It was an archery term, actually. What if sin was defined as putting up barriers between ourselves and others and our true selves? What if sin was defined as blockages of love, as it is sometimes described by Korean Christians with their word han? With these definitions, friends, could we then talk about sin? If we have trouble with this word, and I know I do, but if we have trouble with this word, perhaps we also have trouble admitting that we are wrong. We might also have a tough time saying that I have made a mistake. We also, I think, have a tough time admitting that sometimes we are very harsh to ourselves or to others. Some have said that a central theme of Yom Kippur is letting go. I think that there is much that we could let go of right now in these times of the coronavirus. Perhaps there is much that we could do to let go of. Perhaps there is much that we could let go of as well. For instance, we should let go of the expectation that we will be able to live our lives in all the ways that we did before the pandemic. Now, I was trying to think of some other things that we could let go of in these coronavirus times, but that one feels huge, a big mood to me, as the kids might say. But surely there are other things that we need to let go of. The power of our covenantal faith rests in the promises that we make, keep, break, and renew with others. The foundation of this covenantal faith is our relationships with one another. Our covenantal faith is about love, when we say love is the doctrine of this church. My friend, I don't know what's around you as you are watching this. I don't know what other things you are doing right now. But I do know this. There is a terrible lack of compassion and love in our world. There's a terrible lack of love in the world. Our hearts, not necessarily the anatomical hearts with valves and chambers, but the metaphorical hearts, the symbol of love, has blockages. We put up walls in and around our own hearts when our true mission is to radiate love in all directions. May we find ways to live in to this mission of radiating love in all directions. May it be so. Our closing song is hymn number 146. And David Mendelsohn so expertly recorded this song on vocals, guitar, mandolin, and bass guitar. Thank you, David, for your work on this song. A Hebrew version of this song called Bashana Haba'ah is commonly sung around the high holy days. Again, it's number 146 in the hymnal.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunderclouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
As we leave this virtual space, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Go in peace. I now invite you to extinguish the flames you have lit in your homes as I extinguish the flame of our chalice. As the flame goes out, let the smoke waft through the air for just a moment. And I invite you to type into the chat box, I carry the flame.